This opening has 70% to 100% win rate to beat your opponent. Let's start with the English opening over here. This killer opening. Let's do a quick summary of this opening. Pawn to c4, pawn to e5, knight to c3, trying to develop the knight. And then they go knight to f6, a reasonable move. We go knight to f3, and then if they go pawn to e4, there's a trap. We can take the pawn, or maybe even lose his own queen, because if we take, they take, we can take the queen. We'll just win anyway, because they cannot defend our pawn, and so we take the pawn, and we have more development than him, because when they take our knight, we take their knight, we have more knights on the board. And so for the next line of this opening, knight to c6, trying to control more squares, another reasonable move over here, which leads to another trap. If they go bishop to c5, we're gonna go and sacrifice the knight on e5, taking the pawn while also him taking our knight. And if they take our knight, then that is all lost for him because of this fork. And if they don't take our pawn, we just push another pawn to c5, try to attack the bishop and the knight at the same time. But if they do take our pawn, we'll just take the knight, and now the material is balanced. But except that, we have more advantage because of the fact that we control more spaces, and also we're just trying to attack this knight. Oh, not only that, in the next sequence of moves, if he retreats his knight, because that's only the square he can go to, then we'll have the advantage to go queen to g4. They go pawn to g6. We go queen back to g3, trying to avoid the bishop opening over here. And then they try to develop their bishop. Then we go bishop to g5, attacking the queen. They must do something about that queen, or else it will be taken. So they cover the queen. It's all dead for them because we go knight to d5. If they don't trade the knight, and instead got distracted by this pawn, then we're gonna win. Because when they take our pawn on e5, then we'll check him. And if he goes king to f8, it's checkmate on the square on f8 with a bishop on h6. And so in the next line, folks, I taught you about this other line, which he would be taking up with the bishop, the pawn on d4. And so we take the bishop. We still have a huge lead in development and advantage according to the computer. So there you go, knight to c6, trying to attack our queen. We go back with our queen on e3, and then they castle. They have more development than ours, for sure. But we go bishop to e2, and then rook to e8. And if they go rook to e8, which is an advantage move, and there's a reason why they would go there, we go in castle, which makes our king safe first. And then during the attack, if they go knight to b4, we go queen to g3, attacking the king and forcing it maybe later to checkmate in the future the queen. And so if they take our free pawn, all is lost, because if we take their knight, they will take our knight. Then we attack their rook, they will take our pawn, and all is lost because you cannot take the bishop because your king will be taken. And also, you cannot do nothing because it is checkmate. And the best move here is queen to f6, trying to defend from that checkmate. And we go rook to e1, and then if they go king to f8, we go for this beautiful sequence of moves, which results to bishop to g7, or just taking the bishop, because that's the only way. We distract the king. If they take a rook, it's dead for their queen. And now we're just gonna checkmate him on this pile over here. Of course, there will be some moves later on, but we will expose his king, and now he cannot castle his king to safety. Moving on to more possibilities, and also we have our queen in his territory, which will destroy the king on e8. If they do take our pawn, then we're going to take their bishop, and we're still going to have our queen here with having more advantage against. And another line here emerges, pawn to d6, trying to develop the bishop. But that's a huge no-no, because we go and develop our bishop as well, which means we have more development. He takes our pawn, we take his knight, but when he goes pawn to f5, trying to remove the knight and take my queen, then there's a killer move, trying to sacrifice the knight on f6. If they take our knight, we go and check the king, and he goes king to h8, and we just go queen to h4 after he goes rook to g8. And after this sequence of moves, after bishop to b2, after knight to e6, and then bishop to b2, trying to pin the knight from the pawn, you cannot move this, because if you do, that's check. Thus, you're gonna try to cover up with the rook, then take the queen, and we're winning by up a queen plus 9 points. If he doesn't do that though, and take the knight, and at this point the opponent just resigns. And he cannot go here because again, the plan of him plundering his own queen. And so, you don't move your knight because you will blunder the queen. Instead, you blunder the knight so that there's less points that we can get from them. So folks, we're gonna move on to deep 3. We are finished with the summary, so let's move on to deep 3. We first start with pawn to c4. He goes pawn to e5. We go knight to c3 and then knight to f6. A very traditional game here where these two knights are developed, where these two knights taking some space. Knight to f3 is if black moves the pawn to e4, it is all lost for him. We go knight to g5 and we take this pawn because we have two pieces attacking it. We have an advantage here. If he goes here, there's no way to defend it. If he goes pawn here, then we will just take it. And then he will just take it. We will take it with a knight. That's a blunder. There's a blunder to the queen already if he does that. If he doesn't go pawn to e4, then he will go knight to c6. So we go pawn to e4. Trying to control this square as much as possible. In the next move, it's chaos because it's bishop to c5. We sacrifice the knight. An insane move. A crazy move. I know. But that's not just all. When we sacrifice the knight, this is the next move. Pawn to d4. Keep this in mind because we will be forking opponents with it. If he goes back with the bishop, we'll do this, which is also an insane move because now we're still attacking both of these pieces. If he goes sacrifice his bishop or a pawn because that's all he can do, we don't even need to take the bishop. Because when we take this, we have a very huge possibility that we can win with this move. Attacking his knight. He moves back with his knight. He cannot go here because of the queen, and he cannot go here because of the knight. That's just a huge blunder. So he just goes back and retreat. We have the official blow right here. Queen to g4, which is a very heavy blow for him because that attacks the pawn on g7. Because now, there's only a little option. You can develop back your bishop, which undevelops your pieces. The only move here, which is logical for 1,000 to 2,000 players, is to go pawn to g6, trying to expose the black squares. So folks, we go back, queen to g3, patiently here, because he can go over here and open up and attack our queen. And so, if he goes pawn to g6, trying to develop the bishop, we go for the killer move, bishop to g5, attacking the queen. He must cover it or he must dodge it. But if he covers it, that's a huge no-no. Because when our knight goes d5, and he takes the pawn, we'll have check. Even though if he doesn't take the pawn, then we can still do it. Just check. And so if he takes, this sequence of moves results into checkmate. If he goes king to f8, that's checkmate. That's checkmate. That's it. You have officially won an opponent on move 14 with this checkmate. And it is possible for a 2,000 and 1,000 player to have this kind of a position and lose to you with the English opening at your hands. Going back against the checkmate. And then there's another line over here. If he instead takes the pawn on d4, then we just take it with a queen and we still have a huge amount of lead of advantage according to the computer. Because when he goes knight to c6, we go queen to e3, trying to dodge away from this knight which is being attacked to us. Then he castles. We go and develop our bishop, rook to e8, and then we castle until black's next move over here, which is a mistake, which he can do as a mistake, which is knight to b4, tempting to go here, trying to suffocate our king, trying to attack our king with a knight breaching in our territory. So we move our queen away, attacking this pawn over here on g7, and when they take our pawn, and when we take the knight, they will take our knight. We go bishop to h6, which takes advantage of this pin. If they do anything stupid, they will be checkmated. They cannot take the bishop because that's illegal, because the king will be taken if they do that. So this is a very cool trap. They got plus 1 point, but that's it. We are already conquering his king. If they go here, then we'll just go queen here, try to still checkmate them. And if they do something stupid again, like this, that's checkmate. And according to the computer, even if they cut plus 1 point, we still have the advantage. There's another line. When we castle, they can go pawn to d6 and just try to develop their bishop. And we go and develop our bishop. But in so doing that, they could take our pawn. If we take, this is a pin to the knight to the queen. So we take the knight. We get ourselves pinned by the queen. And they could do this, try to attack the knight. But there is another sacrifice. A knight sacrifice again. F6, knight to f6. And they will take our knight with a pawn. And so, we check them. They go back with the king on h8. With the king on the corner. We can checkmate him easily there in the next couple of moves. After bishop to h5, rook to g8 is next move. Trying to queen go away. But it's not going to go away. Because queen to h4 can possibly happen. Try to take this pawn. And also try to checkmate the king on h8. And so, they go knight e5. And we go bishop to b2, and then after a few couple of moves, we win. Because when they go knight here, when they move their knight away, we take the pawn, and that's check to the king. Not only that, we're forking the queen. That is an insane opening for you guys to take the queen. So we take the queen and we're just winning up by 9 points with a trade of plus 6 points. So if they don't move their knight away like this, then we'll just take the knight and we're still winning by up 2.7 points according to the computer. We're just gonna win again and again on these lines. So in this opening, folks, we could checkmate an opponent for 14 moves. That is all the lines there are to the English opening. I hope you enjoyed the video. This opening wins almost 70% of the time. Crush opponents with it. You can crush beginners with it over 90% of the time. And checkmate them on move 14 and in other styles and take their pieces. And win the whole chessboard. And also, winning the queen 2 times in a row in a game can happen over here. So folks, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you learned something, please like and subscribe to motivate me to make more videos like this. And see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching this video. Bye. Peace out.